Okay, welcome back to the United Pubcast. Just a bit of a casual chat today. I'm not sure where Larry is. I think he was supposed to do a video or meet up with a guest, but haven't heard from him today. So fingers crossed he can join us and we can have a bit of a chat. But unfortunately, just stuck with me for the time being. So I'll scroll through a bit of the news and sort of bounce my sort of thoughts and feelings around each sort of topic towards you, and you can sort of interact in the live chat and sort of keep me going, and probably keep it relatively short. Because there is a heap of news, but there's also no news. It's another day at Manchester United in terms there's always breaking stories in and around the club in terms of what sort of concrete developments are there. I'm not sure. It does seem sort of a bit sort of rinse and repeat from day to day. But there's one or two interesting bits in regards to a little bit of different stories in and around the ownership has just been breaking, and obviously Mason Greenwood as well. So if you are tuned in, do let us know your thoughts. And even if you do want to call into the show, call in and have a chat with us. I can drop the link in, and you can call in if you want and have your say. If not, feel free to just throw everything in the comments. But start with Mason Mount. It does look like Mason Mount today, you would guess, is probably, I wouldn't say decision day in regards to, we've still got one more day in June left in regards to sort of the contractual obligations a player and sort of club need to sort of see out, obviously. So maybe this could drag out for another day or two. Same in the situation in regards to David De Gea. I remember a couple of years ago with the David De Gea situation, which I'll get into in a little bit. His fellow Spaniard and good mate of him, and obviously one of my favourite players in the last couple of years, Juan Mata. Juan Mata's contract expired and nothing was done for probably 2 or 3 weeks. It sort of mumbled, it just sort of swept under the carpet, and he was a free agent for 2 or 3 weeks before he did sign a 1-year contract extension. So maybe that situation is going to happen with David De Gea, where he just sort of sits on this, and he's technically not a Manchester United player, but he'll still be in and around technically the club. So, but technically you'd think there should be a decision in the next day regarding both Mason Mount and David De Gea. I'm not sure if that is going to be the case though. Do let us know your thoughts. But George, good to see you as well, mate. Always. Chris, good to see you. And Dion, as always, do truly appreciate everyone's sort of interaction and joining us. So let us know any other topics or talking points, throw them in there, and we'll have a bit of a chat. Dion, GEA treated quite shabbily by the club. I'll get into David De Gea and the treatment of David De Gea, and there are obviously two sides to this, and obviously David De Gea has a part to play in this as well. Like the Ronaldo situation, whatever side of the fence you sit on in regards to the player or the personality, it's just a shame how it's ending. A club legend like that, club great, however you want to sort of categorise him, shouldn't be leaving the club or shouldn't be put in this position, both by himself, the manager, the club, the fans. It's just a shame how it is unfolding. But I'll touch on De Gea in a little bit, because I'll start on Mason Mount, and I'm getting your thoughts in on Mason Mount, because as I said, I think this is going to happen with no knowledge, no inside information, of course. It's just all the sort of moments, especially from the Chelsea end. His exit is near from a Chelsea perspective, and if that's going to be the case, the only club seemingly in the race is Manchester United. And if you were to believe the reports, and who are we not to, in regards to, is it 50 plus 5 or is it 55 plus 5, Chelsea 155 plus 10 or 60 plus 5, in and around the same ballpark, this is going to get done. Manchester United want the player, Chelsea want rid of the player wants to move. Okay, clubs are sort of naturally going to haggle over sort of make sure they're not the final ones to cave in regards to this negotiation. It'll eventually get done. And the recent report now in the last 24 hours is this is no longer to be sort of done over emails or fax or phone calls or however they do these negotiations. Now, this is now going to come down to a face-to-face talk, whether that means Chelsea coming up to Manchester or Manchester going down to Chelsea. You would assume will probably happen in London, because that's where Manchester United's offices are. There will be face-to-face talks. And you would think in a face-to-face talk where two people are sitting down at a table can have a conversation, so they're not waiting for sort of replies via email or text, this should get done. You think grown men sitting in a room, okay, can get this deal done now. Whether we're informed of that decision, I'm not sure. Probably not. This is probably going to drag out for another 2 or 3 weeks. That's the life of a Manchester United fan. But you'd think if this is the decision to be done, or if this is the player Manchester United want, Chelsea want to sell a player, they're sitting down in a room and can haggle over 5 or 10 million. This deal gets done today, in my opinion. If that meeting takes place today, I think it gets done. Now, whether that's communicated to us, I'm not sure, but I have a feeling today/tomorrow, Mason Mount will technically be a Manchester United player. Let us know what your thoughts are in and around that. Dion, better deal than Rice, to be fair. Well, I'll touch on the Declan Rice one as well at the moment, because I made my thoughts sort of pretty clear around Declan Rice first of all, good player. Obviously, a very good player. Obviously, has a sort of very good future in the game ahead of him. I've made this point in regards to the first time I saw him play. First impressions count in whatever field, in terms of when you're meeting someone, a workplace or in a whatever environment. The first impressions are so important. They're everlasting. They shouldn't be, but they are. They just stick with you. The first time I ever saw Declan Rice play, woeful. And he played away, and again, not the place to judge him. He's a young kid at West Ham playing away at Anfield. The last place I should be judging a footballer, he was shocking. He played at midfield. He was the worst player on the pitch, and that just stuck with me. Yeah, and it shouldn't. Like, obviously, he has grown a lot since then, and he's developed into a great player. But that's my everlasting impression of Declan Rice. The first time I saw him, I said, "No, he's not a footballer." And I did see that. And £100 million player. Now, I understand inflation. I understand where the market is going. If this player is worth this, well, maybe he is worth that. I fully understand that. He's not a £100 million player. At the moment, you look at the players who are going for that. Okay, there Erling Haaland should go for £100 million. I'm sure he's worth a lot more than that at the moment. But they're £100 million players, just in regards to the pressure, the narrative, the perception around those types of players are going to go and win you a league. Is Declan Rice going to sort of win the league for Arsenal? Is he an upgrade on Xhaka? Probably an upgrade on Xhaka, I would think. Probably a little bit more consistent, but has he performed at a big club like Arsenal yet? No, he hasn't. So we don't know how Declan Rice is going to take that step up in terms of just being sort of one of the cogs. He's a star at West Ham. It might suit him, it might not, but Declan Rice now has sort of big shoes to fill. How's he going to perform that at Arsenal? I think he'll be a good signing for Arsenal. I think he'll come in and do a job for £100 million. I don't see it. But again, look, Manchester United will probably go spend 80, 90 million on a player and end up being a squad player, and we'll have views of he's good enough or not good enough. Look at Anthony at the moment in terms of he's one who is reported as a £100 million transfer. I think it was around high 80s, about 90. I always forget, especially the conversion rate. That one was very well reported in euros compared to pounds, and that made it sound worse. But Declan Rice is a £100 million player now. Now, will he be reported as such? Probably not. I think when he misplaces a pass, you won't sort of get those sort of articles written about him and sort of that scrutiny because he's not at Manchester United, but he is a big club in Arsenal, and they're sort of very demanding not demanding fan base, weird fan base. They're very irrational in terms of their reaction, which a lot of modern fans are these days, but very demanding in that aspect in regards to there will be sort of highlighted, sort of these performances will be highlighted and critiqued if results aren't going their way. And how does Declan Rice deal with that? I'm not sure. Maybe he has everything in order in his own mentality, the traits he has to deal with that. Maybe he does. But we don't have that answer until he's faced with that situation. So I think it's a good signing for Arsenal, Declan Rice. £100 million player. I don't think Arsenal fans should be rubbing their hands saying, okay, now we're going to challenge Manchester City. I think Manchester City will probably go get someone 2 times as good for half the price. It does look. I've never seen this Spanish kid thereafter, himself to Vigo or something, and I'm just thinking I've never seen him play. You could just know Pep Guardiola in Manchester City. There's going to be a gem, and he's going to be a brilliant player. And if you can get him for £40 or £50 million compared to £100 million Declan Rice, maybe Pep Guardiola and Manchester City have got the best of that deal. And there's always that sort of report coming out. It's a bit sort of tongue-in-cheek and a bit of sort of poking fun at Manchester United. But you look over the years, all the deals Pep Guardiola has walked away from in terms of players that he wanted, but never just stepped away at Manchester United, took hold of. In terms of the Ronaldo situation, now Ronaldo did well in his first season, but the way it ended, okay, Pep Guardiola sort of escaped that sort of mess. Harry Maguire, stepped away. Manchester United took the charge. Alexis Sanchez, both teams wanted him. Pep Guardiola stepped away. Manchester United took a hold of him, absolutely fell to pieces. He wanted Declan Rice, stepped away. Arsenal took him. Pep Guardiola usually gets the best of these decisions. So who knows what will happen. But again, it's not an Arsenal or West Ham podcast. Good signing for Arsenal. I think he just sort of he's a replacement for Xhaka, in my opinion. Maybe that's wrong. That's just my opinion. Do let us know your thoughts. But Rob, good to see you, mate, as always. Player is worth what the club is willing to pay. Yeah. Oh, look, there's no doubt about that. I'm sure we're going to go out and play some player this week or this window for 100 million, and we'll try to convince ourselves that it's worth what it is. It's one of those ones. It's definitely not Declan Rice's fault. It's definitely not Anthony's fault. It's not Pogba's fault. It's not Harry Maguire's fault. This does lie on the club. So good luck to Declan Rice. I'm in a position now I'd rather Arsenal win the league than Manchester City. So we need all the help we can get. We're going to have to fight City on all fronts, not just our club. We'll need everyone to pinch in and do their bit. I agree with Dion here. 100 million players, goal scorers for my... Yeah. But again, the way the game's changing, look... He's the best midfielder in the world now. If we wanted Frankie de Jong, you'd probably have to go pay 100 million for him. Not that he's worth that, but that's kind of what it is. So the game is changing. In my mind, again, fully aware of the change in inflation and everything. But I see like a world-class player now for £60 million. That's what my brain tells me. Now I know that's far from it. You almost need £160 million for that level of player I'm thinking about. The one I always go back to is Evan Ferguson from Brighton. You'd think if you're to buy him now, obviously impossible with his new contract, but if you're to buy Evan Ferguson now, you're probably thinking £60-70 million. In my mind, he's a £5 million signing. Now, obviously, that's not the case, but just that's sort of how the mind works in terms of the way we're sort of just how the image has sort of changed in regards to footballers, their transfer values. This is the player, Vega, has a release clause of £34 million. He could easily do the Mason Mount job. That is where, look, I've never seen the guy play. Now, obviously, if Pep Guardiola and Manchester City are interested, I'm sure he's pretty decent at football. But that is where you do look at Manchester United's recruitment department in regards to surely, and especially with Eric Ten Hag's knowledge, especially of European football, surely there's names around the place that you can go pick up. That if Declan Rice, I stand by this, and again, not to bring all of it back to Declan Rice, if Declan Rice was from Denmark and played at West Ham, no one would touch him for 40 million. Disagree with me all you want. I know I'm right with that. If he was from Denmark and played in West Ham's midfield, doing whatever, who's the guy next to him, Souček? No, obviously he's a better player, but would you be wanting to go buy that player for over 50 million? No, obviously not. So when you throw a big club tax, when you throw the English factor in there, it's crazy. Look at Mason Mount. I think a lot of us value Mason Mount with the year left on his contract, probably about 30, 35, 40 million. I'm just thinking, okay, that's where it is. But Chelsea, Manchester United, England is 60 million. So I think it's one of those things where you might get this kid from Spain and, he might be double. No, I've never seen him play, but let's just put two together. Young Spanish kid going to Manchester City for Pep Guardiola. He's probably bloody decent. You could see him being twice the player Declan Rice is for less than half the price. You just think it is amazing. Surely Manchester United's recruitment team, I don't know who it is to go get the Brighton scout or the Southampton scout or their heads of that department and put your minds together and we could save a lot of money, and not even a lot of money in terms of saving that, but just bring in better players, because a lot of the players we're bringing in, a lot of the names, and I'm guilty of this because I don't watch all the European leagues, but the names we say, okay, yeah, I'll take this player, I'll take that player. They're the names. They're the names you see on your phone, you see on your social media, you see on the highlights. In terms of a proper recruitment team at the highest level, they'll be looking far beyond that. They'll be looking in second divisions, first divisions, bottom of the table in France, bottom of the league in Sweden, sort of thing. They're the players who are the gems, who got to be the next superstars. Everyone starts at the bottom. Very rare, like Marcus Rashford's the only player who's really come through at Manchester United and developed into that star. Very rarely the stars come from sort of those top level academies. Very often they start in lower league somewhere, or this club at the bottom of the division sort of thing, and they're the players we need to get, because you get a player from that league or from that situation for 5, 10, 15 million. But if they're performing to that same level, but at a club like West Ham or Chelsea or Brighton, look at the best example is Caicedo. Manchester United could have got him for 5 or so million from Ecuador. Now, if we got him for 5 or 10 million, then would he have developed into the player he is now? Maybe not. So maybe the correct progression for him was to go to Brighton, and he developed into the £100 million player. But I think that's the perfect example. We should have been the ones to go in, and there obviously was interest. Should have got that over the line and watch him develop into the player that he is now. But we're not doing that, and there is a huge risk if Manchester United did go and get Caicedo for 5 million. And he didn't perform, we would say, why on earth are we getting money on him? We should be getting money on the proven target. So there is a fine balance in that. It's very easy in hindsight to say we should have got him. If we did get him and sort of missed out on whoever we signed in midfield that window, probably no one, I forget what window that was, we would have been very critical if Caicedo didn't develop into the player that he is now. So there is a balance in that, but Manchester United's recruitment department, it's bad. We can sort of play. We know all the names. And we as fans who sort of, it's not our full-time job to sort of scout football in players. We know all the names Manchester United are linked to. We know who will improve our midfield. We know who will improve our striking problems. We need the scouts to know players who we've never ever heard of. They're the ones who are going to sort of provide the best business. We're looking at these fancy names and sort of the social media numbers and everything. There's so many things influence our decisions. It seems the Manchester United's recruitment department, who do the fans like? Okay, yeah, we'll have a look at this player. And they're the players who are unfortunately most expensive. In regards to the Brighton's recruitment team, they found Caicedo. Cricket. Obviously, I'm just going through the comments. As I assume this is cricket. Steve Smith, I'm playing over in England at the moment. Mum, good to see you. So everyone say hi to my mum. Even everyone, I don't care how much they pay for a player as long as he fits in well with the rest of the squad. Ultimately, it's not our money. We do pour a lot of money into the club. I've just poured in whatever it is in terms of my membership for the season. But we do pour money in, but it's not our money in terms of they're playing a different game. I always think it just feels like a monopoly money, like 100 million just transferring bank accounts between West Ham and Arsenal. Like that's you can't fathom that in regards to when you go to the ATM or you tap and go and whatever you're purchasing. You imagine doing that for 100 million for a footballer, and then you don't know how he's going to turn out. Like it's crazy the money that changes hands at this level. But if they've got it, they need to spend it, no doubt. But I agree with Chris. Definitely feels like this. Now we will. July will obviously pick up and we'll sign players and we'll have a different discussion. In 6 weeks' time, we might be saying we're winning the transfer window. That's what happens. And probably the good thing, and maybe this is a little bit more hope than anything, I look at the Arsenal situation and their sort of so-called winning the transfer window so far this season. How many times have we won the transfer window and finished 6th or 7th? Very often the team who has the best transfer window on paper usually fails on the pitch. So and maybe it's those teams who sort of have a disappointing window, usually sort of goes on and has a decent season. Now that's not the recipe for success, obviously, but you never know. These transfers are only done on paper. Once the season kicks off in August on the pitch, that's when it really matters. At the moment, we just get frustrated because we have no control over the situation. We don't know what's happening. If it was a live stream of a all or nothing Netflix documentary, we'll know what conversations will happen. We know who's rejecting that contract. We know who's wanting to push for that club. We're just in the dark. We're with sort of fake news or fake Twitter accounts or journalists. We have no ideas what's happening. That just, in my opinion, sort of adds to the frustration, and rightly so. And I think in sort of whatever field, you sort of do view very frustrating when you're kept in the dark. But I'd also throw one or two more comments before we move the discussion on to David De Gea and Onana. But Andrew, good to see you, mate. Sometimes it's better to let players develop on loan or play for other clubs than buy him for his development. That's a huge thing. And I'm sure big clubs, well, I say this from hope and also a bit of a calculated guess, that clubs like Manchester United, now whether you define these as loans or agreements, I'm not sure. But like Caicedo, in terms of, look, we're not going to buy you, but hang on, Brighton, we'll keep a good relationship with Brighton and we'll tell Brighton, look, go. Now, this hasn't happened because obviously we're not in negotiations with Brighton. But my line of thinking, if I worked for Manchester United and a guy I used to work with worked with Brighton and he was the head of their recruitment, I'd say, look, got this kid from Ecuador, he looks decent. Too big a risk for us to buy him. It's not exactly what we need at the moment, but I'm telling you, you go get him. I reckon he'll do good for Brighton. Look, if you do, he's obviously going to help you. That's good for you. I've recommended you. You can give him to me at a good price in 5 years' time. Again, maybe that's me playing too much Football Manager or something, and that's not how the real world works. That's how I think it should work, or how a football department should work, in my opinion. Let me know if I'm dreaming, or if you do agree with that type of sentiment. Because we could have got Caicedo and then sent him out on loan. It's a very similar thing, but I think it's always a case of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But Andrew, I was happy with this business at the start of the window last season. Obviously, look at Malacia, 13 million. What I was happy about that business, casting our mind back a year now, is the case that, let's say we're going in from Malacia type player this window. So never seen him play left back from a Dutch league. We say, okay, 30 million. But what we did, and whether this by design or just complete coincidence, you look at Lyon agreed a fee, in my opinion, I believe it was Lyon, I'm not sure, but said 13 million. That deal was agreed. They had the green light to go ahead with the deal. Manchester United got wind of it, 13 million. So they could literally go in and say, look, we know the fee. We know what you will accept is 15 million. Here's an extra two. You can't turn that down. That's more money. Charles Malacia's head was turned and he did join Manchester United. And again, that is a very risky game because if Malacia signed that contract very quick with Lyon, it would have been too late. But I think that is a sort of a good, again, not a tactic because it's extremely risky. But if you can have lesser clubs, should I say, sort of doing a lot of your dirty work in the negotiations and agreeing fees with clubs, because as soon as, if let's say Manchester United want a player from Brighton and Newcastle want a player from Brighton, maybe not Newcastle, a bad example with their Saudi investment, but let's say Tottenham want a player from Brighton. Tottenham will go in, they'll say, okay, 30 million for this player. Manchester United will come knocking for the same player and they'll say it's 55 million. That's Manchester United. There's actually been a story coming out today in regards to a United tax, in regards to John Murtagh has put something out through one or two sort of leaks in the media. So that's an interesting, he shouldn't be putting that out in my opinion, but he's not wrong. So it's one of those, I do feel for him a little bit, but he's also highly paid and is living a dream job. So he should be doing a little bit better in my opinion. But as I said, I want to sort of kick the discussion on to David De Gea and one or two other issues. But if you are enjoying it, please do leave a like on the video. But I do appreciate everyone getting their comments in. Apologies if I don't get to them all. But I do have Twitter open as well, just keeping a hold of a little bit of news. But George here, who will be our number 9? I hope no more Cavani-type strikers on deadline day. I'm fully prepared for someone on deadline day. Who do you think your striker on deadline day is this window? I don't know who it would be. You could see a situation arising around Ollie Watkins. A lot of people do rate Ollie Watkins. I don't see it. But it would be a no for me for Ollie Watkins. But maybe not. I'm thinking of the lines of Igalo and Cavani. What type of striker around? Is it Diego Costa is probably floating around. I assume he's left Wolves. Those players like that, you could very well see yourself be put in a situation where we're sort of, who was that player just before we signed Odion Igalo, who was Josh King, was obviously rumoured to come back before we got that Igalo deal over the line. Hopefully we're not in that position. I think, but I still think there is a very good chance we have Harry Kane by then. I say by then, you've got to do it. It's probably going to be on deadline day. But you know what I mean? I do think Harry Kane should be the next striker for Manchester United. Is that going to be the case? Probably not, but I do think there is a realistic chance of it happening at least. But Eric here, good to see you, mate, as always. You would think as a United fan I would be used to the disappointment during the transfer window, but even doubled now because of the ownership saga. We'll get into the ownership saga, but yeah, I was having this discussion with a mate earlier in regards to this happens every window. We should be sort of very well prepared for this, but we don't. It hits us like a truck every single window, and that's frustrating because we should be better than this. We should be sort of better mentally prepared, and because we have the experience of dealing with this, we know we come out the other side okay. Well, not okay. It's usually a poor season, to be fair. But it hits us like a truck every single window. But Dion, I really can't see what the downside of signing a player like Casado for $4 million would have been. Yeah, look, no downside. It just in terms of I could see a situation where he's our only signing in midfield because we'll bring him in and he comes in and he's not quite, he only gets maybe 5 or 10 games a season simply because he's not quite ready. He doesn't have that sort of freedom to sort of make mistakes as you do at Brighton. It's sort of cutthroat at Manchester United. So does he have a bad game that he's put on the bench for 5 weeks? How does he recover from that? Does he develop into that player? And if he's our signing for $4 million, and we look at Arsenal, they bring in a midfield signing, and Chelsea bring in a midfield signing, I think us fans would say, why are we taking a punt on this guy? Why aren't we getting the finished article for results now? And look, I do agree. We should still be making those signings and integrating them into the squad. But there is a fine line with them. But I do agree with both sides of the coin there. Andrew, in my opinion, if you have scouts, they must have the ability to spot talent. Recently, we don't have that scouts. Yeah, definitely in terms of getting their job done. I definitely agree with that. Box, I think we finish 7th next season. Thanks you for the confidence, Box. I haven't really thought about where we finished this season. It's so interesting now in and around the Premier League because so many teams not only can sort of, maybe with Manchester City now it's hard to sort of expect/demand a title, but so many teams now, the end goal is to make top 4. Even for Manchester City, in the back of their mind, obviously it's the title now. Unfortunately, they're thinking trebles every season now. But even in the back of their mind, Manchester City, the first goal is still Champions League. You have to get in the top 4. But that's the case now for 6, 7, 8 teams. So I'm just thinking you could have a decent season and there's another 4 teams with you who miss out on Champions League football. It is so cutthroat, and it's interesting. I've never really thought where we're going to finish next season because I do see a situation where we finish second, where we improve on this season. But then in regards to what I'm seeing in the transfer market, are we sort of given ourselves the tools to improve? And you probably say no. So unfortunately, we're going to slide the other way on the table, and then it's out of the top 4. And if we slide out of the top 4, you have to fear for Eric Ten Hag and his job. And I definitely wouldn't be sacking him, but just in regards to how Manchester United and the finances and how the football world works, that's definitely a thing. So where will we finish next season? My hunch, you'd probably just say 3rd again. I could see us dropping out of the top 4. I'd say 3rd again. I don't think Arsenal will finish 2nd. I think probably Liverpool might climb back up there. Liverpool might sort of sneak. Opinions will change in 6 weeks after we sign a player. I might think we're going to finish 1st. Who knows? But box going, City 1st, Arsenal 3rd, Arsenal 2nd, Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea. Don't have a... thanks, Box. Aston Villa ahead of Man United. Yeah. You might not be wrong. That's why I'm laughing, because it's frustrating. But the Marcia situation, earlier what I was discussing with. But keep your comments coming in. I'll just bring up 1 or 2 other things in regards to Twitter. Actually, before I get to Twitter, David De Gea. Get me your thoughts in around the situation that was sort of coming around David De Gea. And he put a tweet out the other day. I don't have it up in front of me in one of the pages, but David De Gea put the yawning emoji. out in regards to let's all sort of put our cryptic heads together. And what did he mean by that in terms of is he tired of the talk? Is he tired of how Manchester United's treating him? I'm not sure. That's only David De Gea and his social media team know exactly what he did mean by that. But the situation around David De Gea, and there are strong links with Onana. Now, the reports from Italy are very, don't want to be stereotypical towards the Italian press. They're very Italian-based reports in regards to, Manchester United have an interest in him. They're going to meet with Inter, and we hear these stories every single week in and around whether it be Portuguese or Italian links sort of thing. So I haven't really seen anything properly sort of concrete in and around Onana. Now, I think there's definite interest in regards to, there's something happened with Mason Mount. I don't know if there's something happening with Onana. Now, that could very well change, and maybe something is happening behind the scenes. But, I just don't think it's as developed. I think the situation is very sort of solely focused on David De Gea at the moment. And your thoughts in and around this potential contract that he signed and Manchester United then sort of backtracked. Now, had Manchester United signed the contract and then David De Gea did, or has the agent signed it and Manchester United hadn't? Have Manchester United played a little bit of a curveball and a bit of a sort of a dodgy deal behind the backs of David De Gea? I'm not sure. Who knows how this deal or supposed deal did unfold and who signed it and who signed it when. Absolutely no idea. My hunch is probably what has happened in regards to we get more and more information has come out is Manchester United have offered the deal but haven't signed it. In terms of they're giving it to David De Gea's agent. David De Gea's agent has probably signed it, haven't fully read it through, haven't probably spotted the signature or spotted the non-signature of Manchester United. They've signed it. In their mind, they've agreed a deal. Manchester United haven't sort of dotted the or put pen to paper. So that is my hunch of what has happened. Now, does that happen in these sort of big deals? I'm not sure. Maybe not. But that is the only conclusion I can draw up, because if Manchester United had signed the contract and David De Gea has signed the contract, there's simply no clause to get at. Now, maybe there are clauses. I'm not sure. You'll need a lawyer to sort of go through that with a fine-tooth comb. But again, whatever side of the fence, if Ten Hag is right or if John Murtough or the Glazers are right to pull back out of that deal in regards to, okay, something else has come to light, we don't want De Gea on those wages, we want to move him on, they're well within their right to change their opinion and change their mind. But if they've given the player the contract, not just a player, and now we do need to treat every player equally and sort of fairly and be ruthless no matter who you are, but beyond a player, legend, great, I'll say legend for the purpose of this video, but to treat a club legend like that, it shouldn't be done. Now, just don't put yourself in that position. If you don't want him to stay, just don't even give him the contract in the first place. I think to string him along like this, I think you need to be more ruthless and say, okay, we're not putting anything on the table. We're going to move you on. If that is the case of stringing him along and, okay, we'll give you this wage, or hang on, actually, we'll change that contract. We'll give you even less wages and less playing time. I just think a Manchester United legend, in my opinion, shouldn't be treated that way. So I can understand David De Gea's frustration, but I can also see the club's point of view in regards to maybe the landscape has changed in and around the goalkeeping situation. They weren't happy with the offer they put on the table. They said, hang on, we want to amend that. I can fully understand that. But there are ways to go about this business. Does that happen at Manchester City? Does it happen at Arsenal? Does it happen at Liverpool? It doesn't. It only happens at Manchester United. Look how Rio Ferdinand was let go by the club. Look how Ander Herrera was let go by the club. Look how Patrice Evra was let go by the club. We let these players go in the most... Look how Cristiano Ronaldo, now he did a lot of it his own doing, of course, but a lot was on the club as well in terms of the way we let these players go, just in terms of on a personal level and a professional level. It's not befitting of Manchester United. I'm disappointed in the way this has played out. And David De Gea might have something to do with that as well. And his performances have needed to improve, and that would sort of back his case for a more sort of concrete offer. But it's just a shame how this has ended with David De Gea. So on Onana, I don't see anything sort of proper concrete in and around it. Maybe that changes, obviously. But a weird one with Onana and David De Gea. But I'll go to one or two comments before we sort of move on to Mason Greenwood and Qatar to wrap up the pod. But I've got one or two tweets as well I want to bring up. But John, good to see you, mate. If anyone does need any tennis content, make sure you go over and subscribe to Talking Tennis. Always appreciate you joining us, John. Dion, just again, we're in the dark. We don't know exactly what happened, but just on the surface, no, I agree. It definitely did look bad. Andrew, Newcastle going to play in Europe. How are they going to handle the pressure? I agree with that in regards. I see a very real situation where Newcastle drop out of the top four. Now, if I say that to a Newcastle fan, I get met with, "Oh my God, what are you talking about? Why are you talking about Newcastle? You're one of the big boys now. You have to talk. You have to talk with the top of the table." I just have a feeling Newcastle are going to drop out, and I'd love that personally. Arsenal and City will do well for sure. Spurs in a mess. James Maddison to Spurs is interesting. I think a very good sign. A player I would have liked. He's obviously a Manchester United fan. Would I've liked him for 50 million in terms of coming from a relegated club? Probably not. I think it's a big money move. But I do like the player, and I think he's a good signing. If Harry Kane stays there, you can see at Tottenham under Ange Postecoglou scoring a lot of goals. How many are they going to concede? Maybe that's another discussion. But James Maddison, I think, is a good signing. 50 million, I'm not sure. But interesting. Let me know your thoughts on James Maddison to Spurs and Ange Postecoglou. Probably his not first sign. I think they have confirmed a goalkeeper as well. But apologies if I'm not getting to your comments. There are a heap coming in, which I do truly appreciate, but I want to sort of crack on to the next two topics. And I'll bring up Twitter in regards to Samuel Luckhurst. Broke a little bit of news about an hour ago now, not long before it did go live. Fingers crossed Larry can still join us. Not sure where he is, but I'll bring up Samuel Luckhurst in around Mason Greenwood here. He reported an hour ago, Man United considering a loan for Mason Greenwood amid Ten Hag's reluctance to sell him. Now, the reluctance to sell, I'm not going to click on the Manchester Evening website because it's an absolute mess. You'll be bombarded with advertisements. But there's no quote from Eric Ten Hag saying, I don't want to, I'm reluctant to sell Mason Greenwood. There's no quote in and around Eric Ten Hag suggesting that. I think this is very much Samuel Luckhurst's opinion, and maybe it's a correct opinion. But Eric Ten Hag hasn't come out and said, I don't want to sell him. I think it's just in regards to the quotes Eric Ten Hag put out about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, in and around saying Mason Greenwood scores a lot of goals, but the decision's out of my hands. So I think that is where Samuel Luckhurst is getting his sort of opinion that there's a reluctance to sell him. And there probably is a reluctance to sell him. We probably do want to see him go on loan and then see what the landscape looks like. Did he score 2 goals and he's worth nothing? Or did he score 42 goals and we can sell him for 150 million? I think that's why there's probably a reluctance to sell him at the moment, because we want to see what type of player he develops into. So that's where I think this is very straightforward now from a business sense in regards to keeping Mason Greenwood on the books, but getting him out on loan and just simply seeing what type of footballer he is. Because we don't know, he might be brilliant, he might be woeful. But I think the loan deal is best for Manchester United and best for Mason Greenwood at the moment. We can have the discussion about the off-field stuff and the ramifications of that in a little bit. But at the moment, I can fully see that eventuating, and I think it is the right decision. John here, the website is an absolute mess, so I thought I'd save everyone from that. Dion here, that's Luckhurst, yeah. Ten Hag wants Greenwood in the squad right now. I'm not sure. Look, you'd want the player. Of course, you want the footballer. There's more to football than this. And that's, again, not to the... I'm sure there's players in every team who are doing stuff behind closed doors that would know nothing about, and if it came to light, would absolutely be disgusted and would be demanding they get out of the club. My issue in and around having Greenwood in the team is not a footballing thing at the moment. It's not even the moral debate. It's in regards to the attention he would bring onto the pitch in regards to the media and opposition fans. I don't think that benefits the team. And that's simply the decision that sort of my overriding feeling at the moment. I can put all the moral. I can't, but I can put all the morals to the side. I can put his personality and his dramas to the side. I just think the attention that they would bring, the distraction it would be, I don't think it helps the players. We can't win away from home in the best of times. Could you imagine putting a hostile atmosphere in front of the players every time Mason Greenwood gets the ball, met with huge boos and everything, and that will influence Eric Ten Hag's substitutions, that'll impact who he starts in games. And I just think ultimately that'll take its toll and won't help Manchester United on the pitch, where is most important. But who knows what the landscape will look like in a couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe even a year's time. Mason Greenwood might. I don't see a situation where this arises, but maybe he does play for Manchester United again. Who knows? Loan move makes sense and probably away from the UK. Look, the main thing with a loan, it will be away from the UK. Could you imagine an English Premier League club getting him on loan? Could you imagine? Their clubs wouldn't stand for it. Who was that Scottish? Was it a Scottish team about 2 years ago? Signed a player who just came out of prison or was charged. Signed the contract. It was officially unveiled as a player, and then the fans sort of protested against it. And 2 or 3 days later, his contract was torn up, and shows the power of that fans can potentially have in and around these serious issues. I think it was in Scotland. Might not have been, or might have been a second or third tier in England. I'm not sure, but look, who knows? We're going to be having many more Mason Greenwood discussions in a little bit, or over the coming weeks and months, I should say. Andrew, it is, but it'll be sorted. Unfortunately, it takes time and the game must go on, which will be affected. If Eric Ten Hag stays long-term, United will get better and stronger. We have to be patient. Patience is definitely key. And Fox Greenwood to Leeds. I remember the last time we played, not the last time, it was just after the Greenwood situation arose under Ralph Rangnick. Manchester United, one of my favourite games of the season, probably my highlight of that season, we beat Leeds at Ellen Road 4-2. And it was in the rain. It was probably one of my favourite football games I've seen in the last decade. If you can remember, we went 2-0 up. Leeds brought it back to 2-2. Then Fred and Anthony Elanga? Pretty sure Anthony Elanga. Fred and Elanga scored 2 late goals to win at 4-2. It was in the rain. It was nothing but tackles. It was a brilliant old-fashioned game of football. And it was just after the Mason Greenwood news, and Leeds, they're hostile at the best of times, but obviously had the Mason Greenwood ammunition as well. And the Leeds fans were saying, what was he saying? Manchester United had a very good rebuttal. I'll try and think quick in regards to Mason Greenwood, he's one of your own. Mason Greenwood, he's one of your own, sort of thing, really sort of riling up Manchester United's away section. And the Manchester United fans responded, Mason Greenwood, he's Yorkshire like you, because obviously he's not from Manchester, he's from Yorkshire. And Leeds had no comeback to that one. So Manchester United fans won that round 10-8. But I'll bring up the latest in regards to a little bit of interesting news and the Qatar, Sir Jim Glazers. I always forget how to sort of topic that one. But here, United plug here in regards to who this guy is. I have no idea. David Hellier from @Business. @Business has 9 million followers. So I'll put them down as a reliable outlet. David Hellier, I've been told by sources that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid is dead in the water. I had water there, which is almost the expression. But I've been told by sources that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid is dead. That is interesting because they're one of the ones, we don't look at this from a transferred sort of sources. Okay, Fabrizio Romano's tweeted this, or Simon Stone. The ownership situation, we're very much looking in terms of what sources from in and around the business world say. So when they speak, they're the ones we listen to. If someone from the Daily Mail or the Sun or even Fabrizio or Simon Stone say something about the ownership, would they really have the sources for this? Probably not. But when someone from, as I said, some Twitter account saying business and has 9 million followers, Bloomberg, I should say, obviously very reliable. We do have to hold a little bit of weight in regards to what they're saying. And I've been told that Sir Jim's bid is dead. And that obviously sort of coincides with there's a lot of confidence around Qatar. 1 or 2 reports that Qatar are starting to sort of report themselves or sort of put out the confidence that they're very sort of feeling they are in a good position. So just your thoughts in and around the latest ownership. It definitely is swinging this way. Remember about a month ago, it was swinging towards Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and then now it's starting to swing back towards Qatar. And maybe in terms of when 1 or 2 lines come out like this, maybe even more so than what the Sir Jim confidence was a month ago, this is starting to feel a little bit more concrete. And we're very interested to hear the next sort of leak from Sir Jim and Ineos's side. If they start to distance themselves, does that mean the deal is done? Now, a very real situation is here. I think we're reading this and going, okay, I've been told Sir Jim's bid is dead. So we're thinking, okay, Qatar won. Qatar are going to be owners. Does that mean Glazers are going to sell? Maybe Sir Jim's bid is dead. Who knows what the Qatar bid is doing? Now, obviously, you put 2 and 2 together, you would think Qatar's bid is going to be successful. But just that maybe it's the pessimist in me, but I'm sort of very much looking at it and going, well, maybe Qatar's bid is dead as well. Maybe the Glazers walk away from there. I'm extremely concerned, extremely scared that the Glazers stay on. Who knows what will happen there? Do let me know your thoughts, and I'll bring up another Twitter page. We'll go through 1 or 2 more transfers discussions before I do wrap up. But I'll just go through 1 or 2 other comments before we do wrap up. John here, rightly or wrongly, he won't get so much grief abroad. We had this discussion in regards to Italy is potentially likely his most preferred destination. And you do look at maybe 1 or 2 other past players in terms of the treatment they would get after such things in Italy. Probably not, well, definitely not as much as in England. So that is definitely where you can go test the waters and see what your fitness and your touch looks like. But a loan is definitely not happening for Mason Greenwood. In England, it's definitely going to happen overseas. 1 or 2 other things. Andrew here, what I liked about Rangnick, how he handled the press. I was very mixed on Rangnick's press conference. I loved them and I hated them. I don't know how I thought about it, because I loved it in terms of his honesty and the forthrightness in terms of coming out and saying it how it is. I did love that. But I also thought at times it was a detriment to our players in terms of getting them to perform on the pitch. Like, yes, he was sort of throwing players under the bus. He was throwing sort of the club under the bus, which was great. Then I don't think that helps certain individuals get a good performance out of them on a Saturday, and we're losing games every single week. And I think, hang on, if he changed his tune in the press conference and he started saying one or two positive things, maybe the players would go out with a little bit more confidence and maybe perform better. So I was very mixed on Rangnick's press conference. I did like it, but I also thought he shot himself in the foot in regards to results quite a bit. Dion Ahmad and Plesher will still be loaned out in the mid-30s. I don't know what Ahmad. I think will definitely get a loan. I think he get a Premier League loan, and I think that's probably the right thing to do. Palestri, I don't think you loan Palestri out. I think you either use him or you sell him. I think he's a player you could go and sell to Spain for a decent amount. Now, what Palestri's transfer value to a club in Spain is, I'm not sure. I think when we throw out some of the names in the Premier League, what they're going for, we could definitely say, yeah, Palestri's worth 30 million. Is Manchester United going to get that? Of course not. You'd think maybe he'd go around 10 or 15 million. Should we be selling? I'm not sure. I don't think a loan for Plesser. I think a decision has to be made now. He's either got to be part of the squad or you sell him. Ahmad, I think, okay, go give him a Premier League loan. He did it in the Championship. Go do it in the Premier League. And I think then you can have a final decision on Ahmad. But maybe definitely give Ahmad pre-season. If he scores 10 goals on pre-season, obviously you throw him against Wolves. But interesting one there. But Al here, the minority shareholders of Man United threaten to sue the club if Sir Jim was accepted. Yeah, I've seen reports in and around that, and look, I've no reason to disagree or not believe those, but I've no idea what that means in and around. Surely these people sort of, when they do sign up with Manchester United, that they know all the ramifications in and around the Glazers and those Class B shares compared to the Class A shares. But that's obviously there's something there where the smoke there's fire. So maybe that is something that definitely did hurt Sir Jim's bid. How Qatar have sort of not weaseled around that, but how Qatar are sort of monitoring that situation and managing it. Maybe that is why they are in a better position. But Bloomberg don't do football stories. This was PR. Again, who was it? I forget who put it out in regards to some sources. They're reporting in terms of, I just said they've got 9 million followers. So, okay, so they're reliable. But if you go through in terms of, you convert it back to a football narrative and say, okay, this journalist has 1 million subscribers or 1 million followers. We know in football, he might be the worst journalist out there, or he might be the worst source out there. But in terms of the number, he looks good. So when these finance and business websites put stuff out, we think, oh, they're business people, they're talking sense. We don't know if it's a good source or not. Now, maybe someone in the chat does know if a business source is good or not. But just because the amount of followers doesn't mean they're telling the complete truth or have a certain agenda behind them. But John here, I was not a fan of Rang in any way, shape or form. The way it ended, he definitely didn't sort of endear himself. But it was a weird one. And again, should we have put Rangnick in that situation? Should he have put himself in that position? It summed up our club at the time, no doubt about that. But Box here, will we go for more unfancied names, with the more glamour names being harder to get or very expensive? It's where I go back to the start of the discussion on tonight's show, in and around. That's up to our scouting department. Our scouting department needs to get these sort of hidden gems over the line. And the scouting department, they obviously do have the knowledge in terms of, they did get Caicedo in regards to, they could have got him for 4 or 5 billion. So they can find these players. It's in terms of being strong, sort of showing good leadership and sort of courage behind your decision to sort of pull the trigger and get those deals done. But at the moment, in terms of a Glazer decision, if you're sitting there and you think, okay, Caicedo can come in for 4 million, 5 million, oh, hang on, we can get this kid in the Premier League for 25 million, and you look at his social media numbers, what we can put him in a kid, he can get a deal with Adidas, and suddenly that's what a transfer deal looks like to Manchester United and the Glazers. We need to get away from that and look at purely footballing decisions. When Qatar come in, that's probably definitely a good thing in regards to Qatar. You would assume not overnight, but very quickly within the first 2 seasons, there would be a bit of an overhaul behind the scenes in and around the football department, and we can move away because obviously there is that unlimited back-in where Manchester United sort of can afford losses, so we can afford to sort of get rid of the deadwood and sort of integrate a sort of a new sort of football team both on and off the pitch, and probably one of the huge benefits, in my opinion, of sort of short-term results in terms of changing those with Qatari owners coming in, because there's no doubt, I think there is good in our football department behind the scenes, but there's also a lot of bad. Not so much, well, yeah, there probably is bad, but probably not so much a lot of bad. It's just not as good as where it needs to be in terms of, if you compare it to Manchester City, Real Madrid, whether you'll say Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, whoever's successful, we might be good. We're not that good. And I think that is where it is. It's not that we're horrible, and sometimes it does definitely feel like that, but that's where it definitely needs to be improved. But I saw this box, João Neves from Benfica. I think he's an 18-year-old from Benfica. First I heard of him was about 5 minutes before I went on straight. I've never seen him play. I haven't even done my YouTube scouting on him. So I love a Portuguese link this time of the window. Do I see anything in it? Look, maybe he's holding up a Man United shirt in a week's time. I don't believe it, but who knows? Dion here, what centre forward are you signing, Tom? It's only Harry Kane for me, and that's lazy. That goes into the discussion I was having earlier. The scout should have all the strikers out there who are away from the glamorous names, who can sort of do the best job for Manchester United, both on the pitch but also financially. I don't know those names. The only name I know who can guarantee goals, like even I think there's two players in the world now who guarantee goals, and that's Erling Haaland and Harry Kane. I think even if you were to bring in, okay, maybe past of, let's say, you brought in Benzema or Lewandowski now, do they really guarantee goals in the Premier League at their age? But probably not. That they might score 30, but they might not. In terms of Osimhen, like, could you see he could score 30 or 40? He might score 2. You don't know how that would convert. I think Harry Kane is the only guarantee of goals out there. Now, this, as I said, the scouting department should have those answers there behind the scenes in terms of, no, we know this guy will guarantee us goals galore. In 2 or 3 years' time, we're going to get him in for 15 million now. That is their job. The only name I know is Harry Kane. And I still think there is something there in regards to Daniel Levy. The sticking point is not so much Daniel Levy for me. The sticking point is Harry Kane now. Harry Kane has to put pressure. Does he want to put pressure and sort of anger the fans, frustrate the fans? I think the fans at Tottenham would probably accept it, in my opinion, in terms of you look at how the sort of feeling towards Ronaldo is at the moment, in terms of our emotion when he did that Piers Morgan interview. Get out the door, people burning shirts and everything. At the moment now, we're still extremely frustrated with him, but it's kind of eased. I think with Harry Kane, there'll be immediate frustration with him sort of pushing for a move from Tottenham. But I think they'll get over. I think they'll understand the situation. You look at West Ham fans, they understand the situation with Declan Rice. I think Harry Kane needs to, whether it's put in a transfer request or just put pressure on behind the scenes, I'm not sure. But he needs to do something, because if it's just Manchester United and Daniel Levy, it's not going to get done. I don't think that'll get done. I think we do need to bring this price down simply because of our budget, or sort of potential budget. I don't think we have, especially after spending 60 million on Mason Mount, I don't think we have 105, 110 million to spend on Harry Kane. Now we should. That'll be up for Manchester United to sort of balance their books and sort of justify that spending. But for me, it is Harry Kane. Andrew Green, Mbappe. Look, I'd love Mbappe. That's a discussion to have when Qatar come in. Even Mbappe, guarantee of goals, like he's going to score a lot of goals, but as a striker like Erling Haaland and Harry Kane, I'm not sure, again, because I'm not sure exactly where Mbappe would line up in Erik ten Hag team in the English Premier League. Is he on the left? Is he up front as a striker? I'm not sure. He'd be very close to a guarantee of goals, but does he suit Erik ten Hag and exactly what he want? Do we want that distraction at Manchester United? Because Mbappe brings a lot of baggage. Do we want that? Does Erik ten Hag want that? Maybe he does. My guess is probably not. But would I welcome Mbappe? Of course I will, but I see a lot of potential issues there. Andrew, no injury for Kane. We hunting again. The injury record is interesting because I share it in regards to, Harry Kane's injury record. It's not good enough. We can't be spending that money. I always look at that injury record, though. It always results in him take Erling Haaland out of this freak season. Harry Kane's injury records always results in him being the top goal scorer in the league. So I'm just thinking, he's injured, but he still scores more than anyone. So is the injury record really a problem? Now, maybe it is. Maybe it's going to get worse at times. Who knows? That's something definitely to consider. But it's not the sticking point for me. For some people it is. I'm obviously entitled to their opinion of that, but I've never seen a huge issue. I just had a thinking the other day, in and around the one player I'd start to look at in terms of, you look at Manchester City, how ruthless they can be in regards to getting rid of sort of good, important players and sort of moving them on before they become a problem. A player who I thought had a brilliant season and a player I love, the first name on the team sheet for me this season. I'd start to look at, just bringing up this name here, in regards to Fabrizio Romano has obviously confirmed that the Kim from Napoli has signed for Bayern Munich. The name I'm starting to look at now in regards to, if we want to be ruthless and sort of move forward, not to get rid of him, I'm starting now, I would look at Rafael Varane in regards to Lisandro Martinez is good. He obviously is perfect, but now I don't think centre-back is a priority. But if I'm looking forward now, I'm thinking, well, hang on, if there is a centre-back out there now, a young centre-back, 22, 23, 24, maybe is the time now to bring him in regards to, we don't know what position Rafael Varane will be in fitness and quality-wise in 2 years' time. Now, maybe he's brilliant, maybe he's not. But I think we still, in my opinion, a priority is definitely not centre-back. But now I just had an image of Rafael Varane, what I picture him looking like in a year's time, in 2 years' time, if he picks up 1 or 2 injuries. And maybe that is where Manchester United sort of ruthlessness needs to sort of improve. And maybe it is start again, not get rid of Rafael Varane. I absolutely love him, but maybe it is we need to start looking at the situation and around him. But I'll just say, while I'm on here, I'll have a quick scroll through Fabrizio's Twitter page, see if there is any news breaking. But obviously that one with Kim, how much did he go for there? It doesn't say there. Obviously 5-year deal already. I'm not sure what the price was around his release clause. My guess was around 40-something million maybe. Arsenal now increasingly confident. A young player, never heard of him. Good luck to him. I've seen this. Documents will be signed. Kondogbia. He was a player who was always linked with Manchester United. Nothing ever really eventuated, but that was always interesting. But would have liked to see how he did in the Premier League. We'll look at Brighton here. No big news in around. This is the one I wanted to get through in terms of maybe it's out of the water now because Lisandro Martinez is left-footed. But before Lisandro Martinez came in, this was the play for me, Pau Torres. Now, the reason being it was the wrong one. I had him on Football Manager, and he was absolutely brilliant. He helped me win the treble with Manchester United, and I thought he was absolutely brilliant in Football Manager. I had seen him play once or twice as well for Villarreal when they do the business over Manchester United. But Aston Villa, that is a good side. I really like him. Now, would I bring him into Manchester United now? Would you play 2 left-footers? Is that different to 2 right-footers? I'm not sure. It is in our minds. Is it really? I'm not sure. So it's definitely not going to happen. But he's a player who I definitely would have been looking at a year or two ago. I think he's very good and a very good signing for Aston Villa, and goes back to box points earlier. Maybe Aston Villa are going to finish above us. They're having a very good window themselves. So, good luck to Pau Torres. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on him. And if you are a Football Manager fan, go sign him up. He's absolutely brilliant. But I'll start to wrap up. Weghorst will guarantee us a goal. The trouble is, it's just one. He didn't score in the Premier League, did he? He scored 1 or 2 in the cups, but or 1 in Europe, I think, and 1 in the cup. And nothing about Weghorst. Sabitzer was in the kit launch, I believe. I hadn't seen any photos, but people were saying you can still buy his kit next season. You would have Sabitzer's number. That's interesting. And I don't think that was the case with Weghorst, and I haven't seen any photos of Weghorst in the shirt. So that's very interesting, but I think we always read a little bit too much into that as fans. But Dion Martial is starting against Wolves, isn't he? Martial was in the kit launch. At the moment, yes. At the moment, as things stand, he's the striker for me next season because we don't have anyone else. If it's a shootout between Rashford or Weghorst or Martial, I'll push Rashford to the left and Martial through the middle. Is that the answer to go and win us a Premier League title? Of course not. But as things stand, could you disagree? Who else would you play up front? Maybe there is an answer. Would you? I don't know. Would you play Rashford through the middle and play Jadon Sancho on the left, Anthony on the right? I'm not sure. But you say that Martial is starting the first game. We laugh, but we also cry at the same time. And I like Martial. Larry obviously loves Martial. I think if he was fit and playing well, it'd be a brilliant striker for Eric Ten Hag. Those first 2 things, playing well and fit, don't often quite happen. So it is what it is with Anthony Martial. But we've been going for 50 minutes, so I'll try to keep this short today because I was hoping Larry would join us, but I'm not sure. I'll have to message him to see where he did end up. But I do appreciate everyone in the comments. I'm keeping me going, getting the discussion sort of free-flowing, plenty of different opinions. And look, scrolling through all that, I was hoping something would break in the 50 minutes that we're live in terms of something around Mason Mount. I'm sure once I'll click end broadcast, Mason Mount will be holding up a Manchester United shirt and we'll be back live. So make sure you are subscribed. But again, I do truly appreciate everyone joining us and having a bit of a chat and winding down my evening for us. And very enjoyable. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like on the video. That'll be very much appreciated. And Larry and I should, if I can get a hold of him, meet up at the pub tomorrow for a bit of a Friday night pint. And hopefully we have some breaking news to discuss, whether that be around Mason Mount, David De Gea, or more importantly, the ownership. I think we get far too distracted, wrongly so, in around, okay, who's the striker, who's the player? The big thing, it's not as exciting in regards to what we see on the pitch, but it is so important, this ownership. It is the only important thing happening at the moment. Everything else is just noise. These players will come and go. The ownership, when they take hold of the club, that is a huge thing. And I think that is where a lot of the focus and sort of time does need to be spent. But frustrating. But again, I do appreciate everyone. John here, which will happen first, Larry arrives or Mason Mount? I'm positive Larry, just because I have no confidence in Manchester United. I'm sure Larry will appear back on the podcast before Mason Mount is holding up a red shirt. But leave a like on your way out, hit subscribe if you're new, and everyone enjoy their day or their evening wherever they are, and we'll chat to you soon. Cheers.